This video takes the monopoly diagram that we've already drawn and it explains how you might use it in an exam question, particularly as a higher level piece of micro-analysis. So there are three main ways we might use this diagram. The first is if there's been an increase in demand. So we start with our monopoly making a supernormal profit, shown by the area between P and C up to quantity Q. We know from theme 1 that when demand increases it shifts to the right, a parallel shift, so we do exactly the same thing here. We shift the demand curve to the right parallel, giving us D1 equals AR1. We also know the marginal revenue curve begins at the same point as the demand curve and is twice as steep, which means our marginal revenue curve also has to shift parallel, so that those things are still true. The business is a profit maximizer, so it produces where MC and our new marginal revenue curve meets, which is quantity Q1. We find the new price by continuing this dotted line up to the demand curve and tracing across to give us P1, and we find the new cost by tracing along from where the dotted line meets the AC curve, giving us C1. That means that the level of supernormal profit has increased from this area here to this area here. The second way we might use the diagram is by showing an increase in fixed costs. These are the costs that don't change with output, so things like rent, which no matter how many items you make, you still pay the same amount of rent. So the marginal cost curve takes into account the cost of producing the next good. That means that it doesn't take into account the fixed costs, because they're not involved in producing the next good, because they've already been paid. That means the marginal cost stays the same, and it's just the AC curve, the average cost curve, that shifts. An increase in fixed costs means it shifts upwards, but it shifts upwards along the MC curve so that the new AC curve is still cut by the MC curve at this lowest point. So a shift like this to AC1. Profit maximizer produces where MC equals MR, but MC hasn't changed. So the quantity Q stays the same, our price stays the same, but our cost increases up to C1 here, meaning the level of supernormal profit has decreased from this area here to this smaller area here. The third way, and perhaps the most complex diagram to draw, is an increase in variable costs. These are the costs which change as your output changes, things like raw material costs, which are taken into account by the marginal cost curve. That means an increase in variable costs causes the MC curve to shift upwards, and the AC curve to shift upwards as well. So the MC curve shifts up, and the AC curve as well. So our new AC curve is cut at the lowest point by the new MC curve. Profit maximizer produces where MC equals MR, so the new quantity is Q1. To find the new price, we continue that new quantity line up to the demand curve and trace across to get P1. And to find the new cost, we trace across from where that new quantity dotted line meets AC1, giving us cost C1. That means again the level of supernormal profit has decreased from this area here to this area here. In an exam, bringing in one of these diagrams is an easy way to hugely enhance your answer. They're really worth practicing so that you can draw them quickly and accurately in an exam.